Hello and welcome. My name is Mary Grace Fahrun, also known as Rue of Rue's Kitchen, and in this video I'm going to show you how I use Voice of the Saints by Lo Scarabeo. In a previous video I did a flip through of this deck, and the response was overwhelming with the same request. Can you please show how you use them? So I did what most people who are going to share how they use something prepare. I did my research and I made my notes, and every time I remembered another manner in which I use these cards, I wrote it down. I made my list. I collected all my resources. There's no way I could cover it all in one video. So it's going to have to be perhaps a series, or at least it's going to at least have to be 2 videos. So first of all, in case you haven't watched the previous video where I do a flip through, I'm going to add a link somewhere so that you can just go to that video and watch that first, just in case you don't know what cards I'm talking about. So again, this is the box, and these are the cards right here. These are the backs. These are the fronts. The first, and there's 78 cards. Okay, I guess I should do a little recap. There's 78 cards representing 78 saints, which is not, there aren't only 78 saints. There are hundreds of saints. And saints are not, these actually are all Catholic saints. But other religions have their saints or their equivalent of saints. Also, let me preface this by saying my video is going to be about how to work with these cards. If you are a devout Catholic, this may or may not jive with practicing Catholicism. In that case, I recommend that you take from this what you can use and leave the rest. The flip side is, if you're not Catholic and you want to work with saints, nothing prevents you from working with saints, and I've seen time and time again where people who work with saints are not Catholic and they obtain the same results as someone who is, or you know what I mean? You don't have to be Catholic. The other caveat is that, again, this is limited. There's only 78 saints in here. But this video is about how I use this deck, which is why I thought, oh my God, I'm opening up a whole can of worms with the saint practice, because my practice of saint magic is not limited to these cards. But for the intents and purposes of this video, it's only how I use this deck when I use it. All right, so I've been talking for 3.5 minutes. Let's get to it. The first manner in which these cards can be used is as an oracle. Now, it comes with a little white book, and the little white book, again, surprisingly, actually has something in it. I was pleasantly surprised by a little white book. I wasn't expecting it to have oracle messages in it. Not much, but enough to go on, especially if you read intuitively. Let me show you these fanned out, because they're very pretty. An excellent cardstock. Anyways, I digress. So, and in the little white book there is spreads. I think there's at least one spread, but it doesn't, I never used it. Sorry. So I can't tell you anything about the spread that's in the little white book. Nothing prevents you from trying it out. All right, oracle. So how you would use an oracle? Same way you would use, how do you use it as an oracle? Same way you use any other oracle deck. You have a question in mind, and you pull a card. So let's, I don't know. I don't have a question in mind, so we'll just pull one at random. All right, so we have Saint Franciscus de Paula. I am not familiar with this saint, but this guy, he answered the call. So he's number 39. So I'll look him up in the little book, little white book. And you know, if you wanted to, you could just go back and, oh, I probably should have said something before, or you could pause, think of your question, and then I pull a card and see if it pertains to your question. But you probably already had a question in mind when I pulled a card, so maybe this is a message for you out there. So Saint Franciscus de Paula is a 15th century Italy. He walked on water and he protects sailors. And the message is achievement of skill and innovative ideas. So that's pretty standard in terms of how an oracle deck works, right? So there's your message. Also, I find the numbers interesting. You may want to look at the numbers, and if you're someone who reads numerology, you may want to incorporate these numbers. There's 3, there's 9, they add up to 12, which add up to 3. 3 is a power number. You see what, you know. Anyway, using it as an oracle, either as daily draw or to answer a question. Now, that was number 1 on my list. Now as 1A, as a clarifier for a tarot reading. So you've just had a reading regarding career, or you've just given someone a reading regarding their career, and you're looking for a little takeaway. You know, that little, or you know, some readers do this. I do this quite often, where I will pick an oracle card as what's the takeaway message, or what can this person, what should they work on going forward to achieve their goals. So here's a card, and we have Saint Bartholomew. So we got Saint Bart. So I'll look up Saint Bart here, and I'll tell you what it says here as a takeaway if it were at the end of a reading for someone's career. So Saint Bart, skinned alive, he is called on during panic attacks. Interesting. And then it says, and that's just a little blurb about who he is. And then your little oracle phrase is lull in adverse situations. So perhaps in the career reading for this person, perhaps they're having anxiety regarding their occupation. Perhaps there's a lot of stress on the job. And Saint Bart here, sorry, Saint Bart, it's like we're buddies, right? But we kind of are. I work with Saint Bart. Saint Bartholomew, the message that they take away from their reading is that, 1, maybe turn to this saint, learn about this saint, meditate upon this saint, ask the saint for help in these anxiety-provoking situations. And also a lull. It also can mean that there's going to be a little bit of a reprieve from this really agitated state. So that's how you would use it as a clarifier for a reading. Number 2 is not just oracle, but specifically working with spirits, with saints. So I do a lot of does this grammar? Oh my God, people, I'm so sorry. My practice involves working with spirits and with saints. So suppose someone comes to me and they say, oh, I'm having this really terrible situation, I'm having trouble in my marriage, which saint? So yeah, you know, you could I could give the usual, well, Saint Teresa. You should pray to Saint Teresa. But, or Saint Martha, or you know what I mean, like the bestsellers, the most known ones. Sure, La Madonna, you know, pray to Our Lady. Someone's having a problem with their children. Maybe their teens are being really rebellious, or they're pray to Saint Anne, right? Or use the cards and see who else wants to help you out. So in this case is which saint has a message regarding my current situation. So I'll pick a card, and here's a guy I don't know. Saint Philippus Benizi. What? Oh, sorry. There's like no focus. You see? You'll have to take my word for it. It's terrible. So let's look up Saint Philippus. He's number 70, which is great because in the little white book, multiple languages, first, and you just look up. Oh, so let's see what it says about him. He's 12th century Italy. He's from the 12th century Italy. Doctor, took vows, winning a position of high prestige within the church. Desire to learn and achievement. So, desire to learn and achievement. That's pretty open-ended. That's pretty helpful. So it really, you know what I mean? Like it's... So if the example that I gave, sorry, I was like, lost, I forgot I was filming. I was pondering it like I was giving someone a reading. So if the question was about, trouble in someone's marriage, desire to learn and achievement could very much be a message about, looking at the other person's point of view, the desire to learn and to open up to what exactly is going on, what is your spouse's point of view, and together achieving a different level in your relationship instead of the relationship breaking down, right? So there's one. I'm just making this up as I go along just to show you how I use these cards. So then there's the card of the day. So suppose you don't have a question, and I really, really recommend that when you obtain a new deck or a deck that you already have had for a long time that you haven't, and especially if you haven't bonded with it yet, or you're having difficulty connecting. And I'm like the worst when it comes to, if I don't connect right away, it's like, oh no, life is too short. There's so many other decks out there. That's terrible. No, sometimes often I have learned that the decks I didn't connect to right away that required a little bit of work really pay off big. So having said that, I recommend that if you do obtain a deck that you don't resonate with, try to do daily draws for a month. And if really the magic is not there, then at least you gave it a month. You gave it a month of daily draws, and you can now pass it on to someone else. Daily draws, same kind of thing. Every day, either at the start or the end of the day. I like it at the start of the day because then I keep that message in mind all day and I see where it pops up. So, what do we have here? We have Saint Matilda. And reg at the bottom means queen. So Saint Matilda, let's look her up, number 63. So suppose this was the card you drew today. Saint Matilda, 63. Generous in helping others, had schools and abbeys erected. Bank, public agency, economic stability. So you know what I mean? Like it does have that phrase, that oracle quality to it. All right. So then the next way these can be used is now we go from divination and readings to actual saint workings. So you're planning to do some magic, some saint magic, and you have a situation in mind that you want to do some saint magic on behalf of, or for, or to help, and you don't know which saint to work with. This is really good, especially when you're first starting out and you don't, and these cards actually open it up so that you're not just going to the same ones all the time. And I'm telling you, it's pretty wild when you do saint magic with the saint that you've just met, and you get like an immediate response. It's because they're on the sidelines waiting for somebody to call them. You know what I mean? So, all right. Well, so this is the card I pulled. Which saint should I request help from for this magical working? And no word of a lie, this is what I pulled. And it's Saint Michael. Sorry, it's really out of focus. It's Saint Michael, Archangel. And, well, coincidentally, or maybe not so coincidentally, it's a saint that I work with a lot. A lot. Like, he and I go way back. So that is, so far, sorry, I'm looking at my list going, oh my gosh, I cannot fit this all in one video. So this is how I would use these cards. And when I use them as an oracle, and who should I work with? And I think it's like, oh, I think the next one is, so you've done your magical working. And it's very common. It was very common historically, because I don't know what Neapolitans are doing today. I just know what the Neapolitans who raised me did. So it was very common that after you cast magic, whether it was saint magic or whether it was folk magic, whatever, nature magic, to then ask to dream about how, if your magical working was successful. You can also use these cards to ask, was my magical working successful? And the way you would do that, so suppose you had done magical working to find the right house. You're looking for a place to live, and you've done magical working to find the right house for you to live, the right neighborhood, and all that stuff. And you cast your spell, and now you go to your saint cards, and you ask, was my magical working successful? Now you pick a card at random, and I picked Saint Clara, number 27. So for number 27, Saint Clara. Saint Clara is 12th century Italy. You notice a theme here. These cards are like some very old saints. Followed the example of Francis of Assisi, abandoning earthly goods, positive encounters, enlightening inspiration. So followed the example of Francis of Assisi, abandoning earthly goods. The message here could be, yes, your magical working is successful, although you may want to ponder downsizing a little bit. You will find the place, in other words, to move to the right neighborhood that you want to work in. See, I got work on the brain. To move to the neighborhood you want to live in, you may have to look at a smaller house, look at a smaller apartment. That's the message from this card in this fictitious example. All right, other uses for these cards. I'm sorry, I keep glancing to the left because that's where my notes are. You can find the image of a saint that you want to work with, and suppose, you know, like if you live in the United States, and you know, it's very, you could go to Walmart and they have those novena candles that have saints already on them, but it's a very limited selection. Or you can go to a Botanica, and you can find candles there. But if you're like me and you live in Pacific Northwest of Canada, in a smallish city where there aren't that many options, these cards and a color printer come in real handy. Now, you could do the same thing with images off the internet, images off books. And so it's not limited. You don't need to get these cards to do this, but I just wanted to share with you. I buy these guys at the Dollar Tree. These guys are $1.25 because in Canada, Dollar Tree is $1.25 everything. Yeah. So for $1.25, it's $1 in the US at Dollar Tree. They don't last 7 days, but they're good enough. For, you know, at least they're blank, they're white, they're perfect. And suppose suppose I want to work with Saint Lawrence, sorry, or Saint Laurent, or Saint Laurentius, or San Lorenzo. Suppose I want to work with him, and I like this image. I would slap this on my printer, make a color copy of it, and there I would paste it onto my candle. It's so easy to paste it on your candle. There's so many different ways you could do it. You can use a glue stick, because it's printer paper. You could use a glue stick on the back of the back of your printed saint, and slap it on the candle. It holds it in place, and then if you want, you could give it an extra layer of packing tape. I'm telling you, me, I'm all about cheap and cheerful. So there, you can make your saint candles. You pick, one more example, and I know this is going to be a little lengthy, but I didn't want to leave you just hanging. So if you went to the deck and you said, okay, I'd like to start working with saints. Who's the first saint that I should work with? Because you just don't know. You don't have a preference. And let's see who I picked. Saint Bonaventure. I laugh because I'm from Montreal, so like I picked St. Lawrence before, which is like the main drag, and now I picked St. Bonaventure, which, you know, is also featured in Montreal geography. I'm pretty sure, if memory serves, it's a metro station. So here we go, St. Bonaventure. So St. Bonaventure wants to work with me. Okay, well, this little white book is, to be honest, limited. It's a starting point. It's a great starting point, but it's limited. So this is St. Bonaventure, nicknamed Seraphic Doctor. He is the patron saint of theologians. Social studies and professions are favored. Interesting. So this guy wants to work with me. That still doesn't tell me who he is. So this is where you have to venture out. Like if you're wanting to work with saints, and I know this video is specifically how to work with these cards, but the little white book is not enough. You're going to need to venture out there and do some research on your own. So let's start with St. Bonaventure. Okay, if you don't have any books right now, Google St. Bonaventure and find out who this guy is. And St. Bonaventure, patron of, like, is better, because if you look up St. Bonaventure, it's going to probably bring up a whole bunch of cities, you know what I'm saying, like geographical locations. So, St. Bonaventure. So, what I would do, and I'll show you some of the books that I have, and I'm not telling you need to go out and buy books, but I kind of am. Here's what you need. You're going to need at least one book, Lives of the Saints. These books are so ubiquitous. They've been around for so long. You walk into a Salvation Army, you walk into Savers, you walk into Goodwill, you walk into any thrift store, especially hospital thrift stores, especially Salvation Army and any kind of religious, like we have one here in town, that's the Gospel Mission thrift store, which ironically I picked up a stack of metaphysical books that were out of print. Beautiful. But anyway, that's a different conversation. I'm always doing that. I'm sorry. All right, so let's start. What books? Let me give you some, just give you some ideas of what books you can use to get to, learn about saints and work with them. Again, like I stated at the start of this video, this is not specifically Catholic working with saints. And if you are a devout Catholic, there is a way that you can do this. You just need to do it within the parameters of your faith. If you're not Catholic, it doesn't matter. These saints, a lot of 12th century saints, these spirits have been around 1,000 years, and people have prayed to them, and that's it will work for you. Just give it a try. You have nothing to lose, and you might be pleasantly surprised. I'm saying you will be. All right, back to the books. So go to a used bookstore, look for something like this. These are everywhere. Everywhere. Mine is from 1954. I think I paid it $2 somewhere at the Salvation Army years ago. It actually is a quite nice one. And Lives of the Saints will help you because you can read about their lives and get to know who St. Bonaventure was before he became St. Bonaventure, picture in a stack of cards made by Lo Scarabeo with 2 lines in a little white book. See what I'm saying? Get to know who they are. because this will also open up what the significance is when you draw this card. So, Lives of the Saints. Another one that I picked up at a thrift store or used bookstore is this one. Whenever I see these Lives of the Saints books, I pick them up. Because although there's a lot of overlap, there's often some new ones in the new book I got that weren't in a previous book I had. See what I'm saying? All right. So this one. This one has color pictures. Oh, this one's lovely. Love it. Very nice. Another book I picked up years ago, which I just checked on Amazon, shocked me, is out of print, is this one. Do you need to buy this book? No. You could find novenas to almost any saint that has a novena written for them online for free. Doesn't cost you anything. Or you could go to the, if you live in Montreal, because I'm going to mention Montreal because I have, friends who watch me. Go to St. Joseph's Oratory. For sure they have novena books there. They have a great selection of the prayer cards. Find the saint that you're wanting to work with. The novena will be right on the back of it. But this one, I got it at a used bookstore. And again, shockingly out of print. So probably because it's so easy to obtain it for free online. The next two books, I don't know if they're still in print, if they still exist. Bear in mind, I've been doing this for decades, so every time I'm really self-conscious because I'll bring out these decks that no one's seen before, long gone or obscure. And now I'm going to show you two books which to me are not obscure, but if you're not as old as me, you probably have never seen these, or depending where you live. Hopefully, if you live in like a major urban center, that has great metaphysical stores, these things are still in print. So, okay, let me just stop talking and show you. Anariva. I have a number of Anariva books, but I'm just showing you these two today. This is Helping Yourself with Selected Prayers, and this is Devotions to the Saints. You may be able to find something in here that will be helpful. And last, and certainly not least, and probably my favorite of them all, just because it encompasses more than just Catholic saints, and I like to work with a variety of spirits and saints, is Mystics, Saints, and Sages by the Encyclopedia by Judica Illes. I talk about this book all the time. I feature pictures of it all the time on Instagram and all that stuff. This book is just unbelievable because before this book existed, I was using those other books. This is great. This opens up a whole world because you're not only working with Catholic saints, if you were raised Catholic like me, but there's saints from other religions in here, and it's just absolutely fascinating. And also, it's geared towards it's geared towards the magical practitioner, which I'm all about. So, I hope this video was helpful. If I began to talk about something and then stopped and you had a question about it, please, please, please feel free to comment below and ask your questions. There's no way I could cover how I work with saints in this video. This was basically to say, hey, how do you use these cards? And show you kind of how I use them. It's not the only ways I use them, but off the top of my head, it's how I use them. So, again, thank you for tuning in, and I wish you all a beautiful day. Bye-bye.